I hope you're really well. Today I want to talk about something that I'm sure we can all totally understand, but it's something that we don't really talk about. Not until, we're really feeling low and I don't know, maybe having like a heart to heart with someone, but it's regrets. And with age comes wisdom. I'm sure we've all had circumstances or times in our lives when we look back and we think, what could my life have been if I pursued this, or if I moved here, or if I stayed with that person, or if I didn't do this, if I did this. And as we get older, the more we try and stop those intrusive thoughts that come into our mind, and we avoid them and we push them away, they just come back. Here and there, you could be having a really good day and they'll just come back into your mind and you're like, oh, and it makes you like uncomfortable. It makes, your muscles tense up and you don't want to think about it because it suddenly, pulls you off guard and puts you into this really like negative, self-critical thought process. But the thing is, talking about the one thing that I maybe regret, and it's been something that like is a niggling thought in the back of my mind over the past, I don't know, like decade or so, until recently I had to really sit down with myself and create a pros and cons list to be like, right, now that I'm feeling a bit more comfortable with myself and I feel like, I can do whatever I want to do if I put my mind to it, do I really want to do this? So basically for many years I wanted to be a singer, and I would sing and I would write, and I would love to perform. But I always felt that every time I would get closer towards these goals and I was working harder, I would completely push back. My anxiety would push me back, and I would always go to my skin picking to make myself feel better, but also keep me in a position where I couldn't get forward with my goal, always feeling like, well, I have all these scars and I have all these marks, so how could I be a recording artist with this certain look about me, and how is that gonna look if I got signed or whatever. And so I would look way into the future and I would just think of everything, and my anxiety would just play up, and before I knew it, I would pick to make myself feel better. But it also kept me so far away from my goal because it just, the skin picking in itself kind of talked me out of it. And so for many years, probably about like a decade now, every time I kind of think of it, every time I make a little bit of a step forward, I have written songs and recorded them, and I did some photos and stuff like that, and obviously some like live sets. Every time I'd get a bit further with it, I would just completely push back. My anxiety would be like, no. The thing is, I always felt like I don't know if I was scared of failure or if I was scared of success. I didn't know what success could bring, if I put my mind to it, if I gave it the full 100. What if I did make it? And what if, all of my comfort zone has got to change, and the people around me changed, and I changed, and all this pressure. And that's what it all comes down to, was pressure. I felt, all of a sudden, something I really loved, writing, singing, recording, all of a sudden there was like a huge pressure on it. Right, well, I have to write loads of songs, I have to make sure that there's some really good ones, and I then need to record them all. That requires a lot of money. I gotta get the money for recording these songs. Then I need to think about imagery. I need to make sure that I also look good for this imagery. I need to look good if I'm going to do some live sessions. I need to make sure that I have potentially like a band, and what is my sound, what is my look as a brand, a website or whatever. And before I knew it, I just like completely talked myself out. But it all came down to pressure. I put the pressure on myself. Could I just be happy with writing and singing and recording and not really needing that to go anywhere? Like, does it mean that I have to be signed? I had to be as big as, I don't know, like J-Lo or something, like to be for my goal to be ticked off? Not necessarily, but before I knew it, my anxiety completely just pulled me all the way back that I didn't do anything. Here I am, 27, and now you've got that whole, as a woman gets older, are they relevant? Like, could I do it if I wanted to? And now I'm at that time in my life where I'm thinking, it's not really in my court to be like, yes, no, kind of now, because when you look at recording artists, there's always this, like, a replenishment of new, younger artists, and I'm starting to feel it where I'm like, wow, okay, I have to look at the things that I've been putting off in my life, and I need to ask myself, do I really want to do them? Because I have to ask myself consciously, do I want to take these regrets into my day-to-day life the way that I have been for the past decade or whatever? The things that have been troubling me, the intrusive thoughts that come into my mind and make me feel anxious, make me skin pick, put me in that box. I need to think, like, do I want to take those with me every day? Because that's exactly what I've been doing for a decade. I've been making a conscious decision in my mind to take these regrets with me. And the way to do that is to sit yourself down, create a pros and cons, to be like, right, what if I start tomorrow to do these things that I regret? If I made a proactive change in my life to do whatever it is I wanted to do, let's create pros and cons on how would that impact my life, what changes would be made, how much would it cost, what would I really get out of it that would make me so happy? Write all of those down, and then you are left with the answer. So you either pursue it or you don't. You either, sing, or I don't know, travel, go this place, or get in touch with that person, or whatever it is that is pushing and holding you back, but you still have that niggling thought in the back of your mind. You're like, oh, I should have done that, should have done. Because at the end of the day, we choose to take these regrets with us. And it's the same thing with skin picking. We can't just assume that one day we're just going to stop. We can't assume that regret is just going to stop one day. It's not. We may always have those feelings in our minds. What if I did that? What if I did that? If we don't confront it. We all know someone, we've all met someone that, one of those older persons, and they're so bitter and they're just so pessimistic, and you think, God, like, I hope I don't turn out like them. That is a great example of someone who has completely avoided stepping up and owning the regrets and staring them in the face and making some proactive, constructive decisions around it. So that is what I recommend personally. If you've got something that you think, what if? And, the years are gone by, but it's still very much there. Sit yourself down, real simple, pros and cons list. Write every pro you can think of, every con you can think of, all the good, all the bad, and then you've got it right in front of you. There's your decision. If the pros outweigh the cons, then make a change in your life, because that regret is never going to go away. Not if you think that it can be done. And if you feel like the cons outweigh the pros and there's not as many good points, it's mainly bad points, then there you go. There's your decision made. It's not worth it. Let it go. And then you can do what you want. You can keep it if you want to go back to it. You can rip it up. You can burn it. I don't know, whatever you want to do. But the great thing about that and writing it down is it's not just in your head anymore. And then eventually you can remember the pros and cons list you made. You can remember that you don't have to carry your regrets with you day to day. Just because you've done it for so long doesn't mean like that it has to happen. Ultimately, it's a conscious decision to keep these thoughts in our minds. So let me know what you think. If you try it out, let me know what your results are, what your regrets are. You maybe you thought that you were going to be a singer one day too, whatever. I don't mind, like, no judging here. Let me know if there's anything that's been kind of going with you in the back of your mind and making you feel a little bit tense and uneasy. And yeah, I'll speak to you real soon.